Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually happens inside your body when you eat 4 eggs every single day? I used to wonder the same thing, and what I've come to understand, after years of paying far too little attention to my own nutrition and then finally deciding to do something about it, genuinely surprised me. Because despite all the myths, despite everything we've been told about cholesterol over the decades, despite the fear and confusion that has followed eggs around for as long as I can remember, eggs are one of the most powerful, complete, and misunderstood foods available to us. And for women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, I think they matter even more than most of us realize. Today I want to walk you through what 4 eggs a day actually do inside your body, step by step, and why your energy, your metabolism, your brain, your eyesight, and even your hormone balance can shift in ways you might not expect. So stay with me, because some of what comes toward the end of this is the part nobody ever seems to talk about. And if something here surprises you, I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start at the beginning. Before we can talk about any of the benefits, we have to address the one fear that keeps so many women from eating eggs regularly in the first place. Won't eating these every day raise my cholesterol? The truth is, no. And what I've come to understand is that this fear was never really grounded in solid science to begin with. It came from outdated research done in the 1960s, research that was later revisited and found to be far less conclusive than it was presented at the time. The connection between dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol is much more complicated than we were led to believe, and much less alarming when it comes to eggs specifically. Here's what I've learned from reading about how the body actually works. Your liver produces the vast majority of your cholesterol internally. It doesn't come primarily from what you eat. So when you eat eggs consistently, something interesting happens. Your liver naturally adjusts and produces less cholesterol to compensate. Your HDL, what's often called the good cholesterol, tends to go up. Your LDL particles actually tend to become larger and less concerning. And your triglyceride levels often improve as well. The key point is this: eggs do not appear to create the kind of cholesterol profile that researchers associate with cardiovascular risk. If anything, the research suggests they support a healthier one. That alone shifted something in how I thought about breakfast. And we're really only just getting started. Now let's talk about protein, and I want to strip away the complexity here, because once you understand this, you'll never think about eggs the same way again. Think about most protein foods: a chicken breast, a piece of fish, a serving of beef. These are all muscle tissues. Their biological purpose was movement, which means their protein structures are dense and somewhat harder for the body to break down and fully use. An egg is different in a fundamental way. It wasn't designed for movement. It was designed as a complete starter kit for life, containing every single building block required to support the development of a living being from the very beginning. That's a remarkable thing when you think about it. This is why egg protein has what's called the highest biological value of any natural food. Biological value simply asks one question: how much of the protein you eat can your body actually absorb and put to use? When I looked into the numbers, I found them striking. Beef protein runs around 75 to 80% usable. Fish, somewhere around 80 to 85%. Chicken, roughly 79%. Egg protein, close to 100% usable. Nearly every gram goes to work. And what does that protein actually do? It supports muscle repair and recovery. It helps maintain the strength of bone tissue, tendons, and ligaments. It supports hormone and enzyme production. It helps the skin repair itself over time, and it plays a meaningful role in immune function. What I realized, especially after 60, is that protein stopped feeling optional to me. It became something I genuinely prioritize. If you've been feeling slower to recover, more tired than you'd expect, or like your strength just isn't where it used to be, the quality and quantity of protein in your diet is one of the first places worth looking. And eggs, in terms of what your body can actually use, are about as efficient as it gets. Now here's something that surprised me when I learned it, and it goes against the way most of us were taught to think about food. Most people think of eggs primarily as a protein source and leave it there. But eggs are also a unique fuel source, and the yolk is at the center of that. When you eat lean protein like chicken without fat, only a portion of it can actually be converted into usable energy. It's a slower, less efficient process. But the fats in an egg yolk change that equation. A significant portion of an egg, the yolk included, can be used by the body as fuel. What this translates to in real life is more stable energy across the day, better blood sugar steadiness, and a sense of fullness that lasts. This is why so many women who switch from toast or cereal in the morning to eggs find they're genuinely satisfied for 4 to 5 hours rather than hungry again within the hour. I've experienced this myself. A protein-centered breakfast with eggs keeps me steady in a way that lighter options never did. And for anyone who's ever felt like their appetite was working against them, that constant pull toward snacking, the mid-afternoon energy drop, this is worth understanding. Eggs don't just feed you, they fuel you in a way that makes the rest of the day easier. Let's talk for a moment about something people rarely discuss: what's actually happening inside the egg white itself. The white of an egg contains a remarkable set of antimicrobial proteins, compounds that naturally defend against bacteria. This makes sense when you think about it. Before life develops inside an egg, the egg has to protect itself from the environment. So nature built in a defense system: enzymes that break down bacterial walls, proteins that block bacteria from accessing nutrients, molecules that bind iron so that harmful organisms can't use it. There's a myth that gets repeated about raw egg whites causing a biotin deficiency. And there's a grain of truth in it. Raw egg whites do contain a compound that can interfere with biotin absorption. But cooking the egg white neutralizes that compound entirely. As long as your eggs are cooked, which for most of us they are, this is simply not a concern. Now I want to highlight something specific because this is the part I find most relevant for women our age. Those of us who are trying to stay strong, maintain our muscle tone, and keep our bodies capable and independent as the years move forward. Inside eggs, there is an amino acid called leucine. Think of leucine as a signal, a trigger that tells your body to begin the process of repairing and building muscle tissue. It essentially switches on muscle synthesis at the cellular level. And eggs are genuinely rich in leucine, more so than many common foods. Here is why this matters to me and why I think it matters to you. After the age of 40, and certainly by our 60s, the body becomes more resistant to the muscle-building signal. We have to give it a stronger, more consistent prompt to maintain what we have. Strength training helps, and it's the cornerstone of my week. But without adequate leucine from food, the training alone can't do as much as it should. 4 eggs a day provides a meaningful, consistent source of that signal. It supports muscle retention, it supports recovery, it supports the kind of strength that means you can carry your own groceries, get up from the floor easily, walk the trails you love, and stay functionally independent for years longer than you might otherwise. I come back to this often. The more muscle we maintain as we age, the longer, stronger, and more self-sufficient our lives tend to be. And eggs, it turns out, are one of the most efficient ways to support that. Let me share something now that I think is one of the most underappreciated things about eggs, and something that very few people explain clearly. Eggs are one of the best natural sources of 3 nutrients that work together in a process the body depends on called methylation. The 3 are choline, B12, and folate. And methylation, while it sounds technical, is simply your body's maintenance system. It's responsible for repairing DNA, clearing out hormones and chemicals your body no longer needs, and producing the brain chemicals that affect your mood, focus, and mental clarity. When this process is slow or inefficient, the effects can feel very familiar. Brain fog, trouble concentrating, low energy that doesn't lift no matter how well you sleep, a general sense of mental heaviness, sluggish digestion, even a tendency toward a low mood without a clear reason. What I found striking is that up to 40% of adults carry a genetic variation that makes this methylation process naturally less efficient. Many of them have no idea. And eggs, specifically the choline and B12 they contain, provide the raw materials this process needs in a form the body can actually use well. This is why so many people who start eating eggs consistently describe changes in their mental sharpness, their mood, their energy levels. It's not a coincidence. It's not a miracle. It's nutrition doing what it's supposed to do when you give your body what it genuinely needs. For me, this was one of the pieces that made everything feel connected. I wasn't just eating for my muscles or my waistline. I was eating to support the way my mind worked, the way I felt from the inside out, the way I showed up each day with David and with my grandchildren. That felt worth paying attention to. Now let's talk about your eyes, because this is one of the benefits that genuinely caught me off guard. Tucked inside the golden yolk of an egg are 2 antioxidants called lutein and zeaxanthin. These compounds accumulate directly in the retina, the tissue at the back of the eye that processes the light coming in and turns it into what you see. And their job is to act as a natural filter, protecting the delicate cells of the retina from UV damage, from the blue light that comes off our phones and screens, and from the general wear that comes with time. If you spend time outdoors, if you use a phone or tablet regularly, if you find yourself needing more light to read comfortably than you used to, then building lutein and zeaxanthin into your diet is one of the quieter, more consistent forms of care you can offer your eyes over time. And eggs, because of the fat in the yolk that helps these compounds absorb, are actually one of the most efficient dietary sources available. Many people who eat eggs regularly report improved vision in low light, sharper night vision, less eye strain. It's a specific, tangible benefit that's easy to overlook until you notice it for yourself. Let's keep going because there's more here. Your brain is built in large part from specialized fats called phospholipids, and egg yolks are one of the richest dietary sources of exactly those fats. When you eat eggs, you are quite literally feeding your brain the materials it's made of. The effects of that show up as better memory and retention, sharper focus, more emotional steadiness, and clearer thinking across the day. This is why eggs appear on the plates of students before exams, in the diets of people focused on long-term cognitive health, and on the recommendation lists of those thinking seriously about protecting their minds as they age. The brain doesn't run well on empty, and it particularly thrives when it has access to the specific fats it needs to maintain itself. There's also something worth knowing about the vitamins hiding in eggs, nutrients most people don't think to associate with this food. Eggs contain vitamin K2, which plays a role in directing calcium toward your bones and away from places you don't want it accumulating, like your arteries. They contain retinol, the form of vitamin A that your body can use directly, supporting immune function and skin health. And they contain vitamin D, not in enormous amounts, but meaningfully, which matters for bone density, hormone regulation, and mood stability. For women especially, these three nutrients carry real significance, and eggs contribute to all three in a single, inexpensive package. Now let me talk about something practical. Which eggs should you actually look for? Caged eggs are at the bottom of the list. The hens are kept in very confined conditions, which affects their stress levels and can affect the nutrient profile of what they produce. If you can avoid these, I would. Cage-free is better, but it's worth knowing the term can be misleading. Cage-free doesn't necessarily mean open space and fresh air. It can still mean crowded indoor conditions. An improvement, but not ideal. Pasture-raised is what I look for when I can. These hens have more space, access to the outdoors, and a more natural diet. That translates into a meaningfully better nutrient profile in the eggs, higher in certain vitamins, and with a healthier fat composition. Organic refers specifically to the feed the hens are given, not their living conditions. An organic hen isn't necessarily pasture-raised, and a pasture-raised hen isn't automatically organic. The ideal is pasture-raised and organic together, both a better environment and certified feed. But here's what I want to say clearly, because I believe it. If pasture-raised organic eggs are outside your budget right now, please don't let that stop you. A conventional egg from your grocery store is still an extraordinarily nutritious food. It is still one of the most complete, affordable, protein-rich foods available. It is still far better than most things we might reach for at breakfast otherwise. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Start where you are. And now that you have your eggs, let's talk about what to eat alongside them, because there are some simple pairings that make the nutrients in eggs more available to your body. Adding leafy greens, arugula, spinach, a simple salad, alongside your eggs takes advantage of the healthy fats in the yolk to dramatically increase how well your body absorbs the antioxidants in those greens. Research suggests the difference can be significant. The yolk essentially acts as a carrier for fat-soluble nutrients. Including onion, even a small amount, adds compounds that support your liver's natural detox processes. Seasoning with black pepper is something I do without thinking now, because the piperine in black pepper helps your body absorb the beneficial carotenoids in the egg yolk more efficiently. Tomatoes, especially cooked, bring lycopene into the meal, which supports cardiovascular and eye health. Avocado adds more healthy fats and fiber, extending that sense of fullness and energy stability. And cooking in olive oil or a small amount of butter provides the right kind of heat-stable fat without interfering with what you're trying to absorb. None of this needs to be complicated. I want to be clear about that. This isn't about constructing an elaborate meal every morning. It's about small, sensible choices that layer on top of each other over time. Little by little, the consistency of these habits is what actually changes how you feel. So if eggs are accessible to you and your body tolerates them well, and most people find they do, then 4 a day is something worth considering. Not as a rigid rule, not as a dramatic transformation promise, but as one of the simplest, most affordable, and most complete ways to nourish your muscles, your brain, your eyes, your hormones, and your overall sense of strength and vitality. What I realized once I started paying attention is that food isn't just about weight or calories. It's about what my body can actually do with what I give it. It's about showing up for my mornings with energy, about keeping my muscle tone as the years move forward, about being strong enough to get down on the floor with my grandchildren and back up again without thinking twice. That's the kind of return I'm interested in. And eggs, as simple and unglamorous as they are, have become one of the quieter constants in how I take care of myself. You can start where you are. It doesn't have to be extreme, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Now, if this gave you something to think about, the next conversation I'd like to have with you matters just as much. Because while eggs are deeply nourishing on their own, there's something that happens when you pair them consistently with adequate protein from other whole food sources. The way your muscle tissue responds, the way your energy stabilizes, the way your body starts to work with you instead of against you, that's worth understanding in full. I'll see you in the next one.